Hey, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And in today's episode, I am going to be joined by Peter Coratola, and he is the founder and CEO at Ease Logistics. And we've had Mike from Ease Logistics on before, but now we're going to have the CEO, the big guy at Ease Logistics, come on here. We're going to hear a little bit about his story, how Ease kind of was founded and how he started the company. And we're also going to talk about a really interesting project that they recently announced and are working on, piloting some autonomous trucks in their area. So very interested to dig into that and learn all about the Ease story as well. So Peter, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be on the show. Appreciate you having me. Excited to talk about ease and some innovation for over the road trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to get you on, and definitely interested to hear more about this. And so I guess before we get into that side of things, like tell us a little bit first about Ease for people that are not familiar, what it is you all do, but tell us too kind of the story, how you ended up founding the company and where did this all come from?
Sure. So ease we're based just outside Columbus, Ohio. Dublin, Ohio is our main headquarters. Our warehouses are up in Marysville, Ohio, and East Liberty. So we're an asset-based third-party logistics company. Recently, when I say recently, I would say over the last 5 to 6 years. When I started the company, almost about 12 years ago. I just had my firstborn son. I just got a puppy. Then I thought I might as well start a logistics company as well because I don't have enough challenges right now.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
You're just all about new things in
all
that
about new.
moment, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Very innovative.
Yeah.
And when starting Ease, you know, the focus really was I saw some I saw some areas in the industry where I felt like just turning the knob a little bit, communication, 24/7, visibility,
Mm.
just a few clicks really can start to separate yourself. And it really kind of shows through the name of the company to tell you that it was had a massive business plan at that part saying it's going to be ease because of all these things. I'd be lying to you.
Mm.
Right. Really, it was when I started the company, it was originally going to be called Midwest Loyal. And then like right before we went to sign the paperwork, our legal counselor, Danny, the lawyer, was kind of, well, what if it grows bigger? Do you want a bigger name? It's kind of like
Mm.
little little late to the game to have any feedback, but I appreciate it. So, but from that, a couple Google searches later, and trying to find a four-letter name, right? We landed
Mm.
on Ease, and little did I know it would really resemble and reflect the goals here at Ease Logistics, right? Being the easiest company to do logistics with continues to be our focus, but also elevating that user experience, making unique, positive experience, just through I want to say the simplest
Mm.
engagements, but really focusing on every engagement being a positive experience, right? We started servicing line production automotive right off the rip. So if, I'm sure you know either a lot, but you know something about it, and that's not the easiest type of
Mm-hmm.
transportation. There's a lot on
Yeah.
the line. It demands excellence. It demands perfection 24/7, right? You got to have 100% compliance. You got to be able to do the same things you do at 2 in the afternoon, at 2 in the morning. You got to know where things are at all the time. And you also have to make sure that the carriers and internal teams also reflect and follow those expectations at all times, right? So
Mm.
when you start servicing an industry that has such high expectations, again, little did I know we were building a foundation of creating a service model that, come to find out was going to almost sell itself through customer referrals and getting us into adjacent industries, but completely different industries when we just hyper focused on this service model that we were creating and, really starting around 2-minute response times, 15-minute intervals, and kind of how we really focused on the user experience.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's such a great perspective and a great way to kind of lay the foundation, right? It's just going by like service first, right? And making sure, like, how do we, like you said, like, it seemed like it was it kind of identifiable to you that, like, hey, a lot of people that were in the same kind of space were not really providing the best service, right? And you said, just crank it a couple notches up, and we could be a differentiator here, and have a differentiator. So I love that, and speaks volumes, obviously, to, if you're getting those referrals from customers, and getting some growth through that as well. So very interesting to kind of hear about how that kind of came together, and incredibly interesting that you had a child, got a puppy,
Yeah.
started a company in the same year. You're a brave man, I'll say, definitely. But so really interesting there. So now tell us a little bit about, as you've started the company and as you've grown it, how have you kind of approached innovation, and how, as you've grown as well, how have you kind of instilled that into your team to think in innovative ways to be able to service your customer?
Yeah. Um, so it kind of goes back to going back off service. I don't make a stance saying that all of Ease's trucks always show up on time, and the
Mm,
competition doesn't, right?
mm,
We're all subject to the same challenges. How I've always looked at innovation, and I was troubled and challenged, I would say, maybe like, I don't want to say how most to generalize, but how I think there's a perception out there where innovation is always directly tied to technology, or like large investments in technology. And
mm-hmm,
how we look at innovation here is, how can we elevate any X experience, right? Just saying 2 minute response time and getting everyone to buy in, and saying, from the largest customers to the mid market to the SMBs, there's one consistent positive feedback that we have when we go in these meetings is your response time is incredible, right? And just making communication as one of our pillars of like customer success, right? For us, that was innovative, right? Is it possible at all times to answer within 2 minutes? Realistically, I understand. I know it's not, right? When
mm-hmm.
I get asked why 2 minutes, typically my answer was because 1 minute was ridiculous,
Good answer.
Yeah. But we look at innovation of, where can you find these crossroads of engagement, be it customer, carrier, vendor, and elevate it, right? Is it through
Mm,
technology? Is it through how you communicate? Is it through how they engage with you, right? And then we expand on that. So innovation for us is, how do we increase, the experience, while also never putting technology between us and the customers that give us opportunities, the carriers that give us the ability to do what we do, right? The vendors that give us the resources to run warehouses and technology to operate in.
mm. Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a great point there. What you said in the beginning is that, innovation isn't always this, like, investment in technology, right? It's just thinking about something in a different way. Like, somebody, I was talking about this with somebody like a month or so ago, and they said, like, taking, like, a roll of tape and putting it on a tape gun, like that, like
Mhm.
that was innovative, right?
Right.
Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like the highest technology that's out there right now, or all these different things. Yeah.
And I feel like it's also how you control. Again, I keep using the word experience, but I
Mm,
came across something today about Apple a decade ago when they came out with the iPad or iPod, and it was, competitors had similar devices, but they all said 256 megabits,
mm-hmm.
and Apple's was just at 1,000 songs in your pocket, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, kind of also, how do you make it digestible for that other
Mm,
user to understand what you're doing, um, but also have that kind of attraction and that appeal, right?
mm,
Where it's good experience, but again, we use the same type of forklifts in the warehouses as same trucks on the road, right?
yeah.
It's just, when you put it all together, how do you use innovation to just deliver a better X, right?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and I think that's a great way to look at it, and think about it. So, when you look at maybe the other side of innovation, right, where you said, like, a lot of times people's mind goes to,
Mhm.
like the latest technology and things like that. And you guys have, trucking operations, you have warehousing operations. So how are you viewing kind of automation and robotics in the industry? Like, what is your view on that? Is that something like you're looking to embrace, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely looking to embrace, right? Again, we're a people-led, technology-enabled company.
Hmm.
So when we look at technologies for automation, especially when you start getting on the asset side, it's how do you increase safety, right? How do you increase output, efficiency? But you know, to to put that removing people from the equation, it's it's not in any of our top 100 goals, right? It's not even
Hmm.
in the list of goals for us. We
Hmm.
see it as a way to similar to on our logistics side, right? I say 2 minute response time to satisfy the customer. Why I like doing it and why we like 15-minute intervals, because it gives us the ability to control our workloads and our workflows. Like, you know, so when you add some layers of automation, you start to get back in control of the tasks that you need to do rather than tasks that are just put on you, right?
Yeah.
Seemingly out of nowhere, but they're important because they're super important to somebody else.
Right.
So automation for us is slowly creeping into our asset. In the warehouse, obviously we have some autonomous platooning trucks on the road, and again, how we've adopted that is for one, getting buy-in at the high volume users and the super users, right?
Mm.
You need you need truck drivers regardless. You need truck drivers without autonomous platooning technology. You need them with autonomous platooning technology right now.
Hmm.
To see the efficiencies or the challenges inside your warehouse with forklifts or rack layouts. You need people to help you understand the flow of how things are picked and the intricate challenges of why one SKU is different than this.
Mm.
So we cautiously approach the mass deployment of automation. Again, a lot of our focus is how do we automate and viciously attack the redundant tasks behind the ease individual to make them more efficient.
Mm, gotcha. Interesting. And I like that approach definitely, and like how to just make that person more powerful at their job basically, and do more and feel more accomplished to at the end of the day. So so you kind of mentioned there this autonomous truck platooning pilot that you guys are doing. I guess first, what is platooning? What is that?
Right. I also learned that word in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Right. Uh, it's not a boat. So autonomous platooning is where the two vehicles are going same route, and the second truck can get in front of the lead truck, and technology allows that second truck to come up close, turn on the technology, and autonomously platoon or drive following that lead truck.
Mm,
All right, so it's in my opinion one of the most impactful technologies when we start talking about automation and autonomous trucks or automation and autonomy in trucks, right? Um, and a full deployment, which we're not there yet, right?
mm,
Um, the the goal would be that second driver could go on a DOT reset, or you have team drivers in the front, right?
mm.
So that allows us to now, especially being in Columbus, where we're within one day's transit of 60% of the
Yeah.
population. Now we can expand that circle, right? But we can also service it with two truckloads. So Columbus to Jacksonville now, you can get there in 28, 30 hours with two
Mm.
trucks, right? Team drivers, but before it would have been one trailer.
Interesting, interesting. So now tell us a little bit about, because you're piloting this technology right now. So tell us a little bit about kind of how did you, I guess, maybe come upon the idea of this solution, and how did you essentially say like, okay, like this is a viable technology that we wanna try out.
So working with the state of Ohio, they had a grant out there for autonomous vehicles. A lot of the
Hmm.
autonomous platooning testing they were looking at were really for passenger vehicles. And when we got involved with it, we really made a push to look at how we could do it for over the road CDL, commercial, for cargo. So we partnered with uh, ODOT, the state of Ohio, companies like Kratos and Bosch that really,
Hmm.
it's their technology. We're the fortunate ones that are able to test it.
Hmm.
But again, why I was super attracted to it was for the use case I just gave. In my opinion,
Yeah.
I think that we're very far away from going full autonomous, and I think even in in that in that timeline, they're going to fully autonomous trucks will be for very specific use cases, right? And when you start to now adopt this autonomous platooning technology, so you still have drivers in the cab, you actually elevate the driver's safety, you elevate what they can do inside the cab, and now you can move more cargo further, right? To me,
Hmm.
it was the most attractive. It was the most attractive avenue for if Ease was able to get involved with these technologies that are all around us. It was the most attractive one to me because I feel like it has the biggest impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. And it's very interesting the use case because I was not familiar with the idea of platooning before, right? I mean I knew about the boats as you said, but not around the trucks like this. So that's very interesting. So now, so tell us a little bit about kind of like how does that work from a technology perspective? You kind of said the trucks get behind each other. So are they moving or are they attached in any way? Like how does that work?
So it's very interesting, and I will tell you, this project was actually the first time I would say I ever was worked with, let alone in a room with like full blown, very ridiculously smart engineers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I will tell you that we have completely different personality types. They're
Yeah.
they are concise, got to know the plan right, and then you bring in
Mm,
maybe dreamers, let's say, like me asking
mm,
questions there, and you kind of really, you throw some loop, definitely throw some curveballs in, right?
yeah.
Um, but so the process is, when they were talking to us about the technology and learning about it, which I learned again, and I put that out there is because to this day I can't tell you the exact technology inside the trucks. I know, Kratos gives us the technology to make it happen, and what happens is when the trucks are within a certain amount of distance in approved areas, the first truck sends a signal to the second one. They both agree to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then as long as they're moving, right, and the second one's behind it, you activate the technology, and the second truck just goes fully autonomous. The steering wheel, the pedals, everything is essentially following what the lead truck is doing, right?
Mm,
To make that happen, they have to be within a certain amount of distance, right? And they measure that distance with while traveling about by seconds, right?
mm,
So technically, the technology can work with the follow truck 15 seconds behind the lead truck, right?
okay.
Now, that seems like a little bit of time, a lot of bit of time, but to put it into relative circumstance, when you're on the highway going 65 mile an hour, 15 seconds is pretty far,
Mm,
right? So the technology starts to talk to each other when they're within 15 seconds, but it doesn't let you activate it until they're within 2 to 3 seconds, right?
okay.
So it's and the reason they do that is because we have to start to eliminate as many variables that are out of our hands out there, right? And what they got to after a lot of testing was at that 2 to 3 seconds, uh, cars are not willing to risk trying to come in between, right?
Got okay. I
So,
see what you mean.
right.
Yeah.
So even if a car would come in hypothetically, it would not break the connection,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And if the first truck does something, right, the second truck doesn't automatically follow what the first truck does. So the first truck has to make an evasive move. It doesn't automatically do it as well. It's
Mm,
second truck's first reaction is slow down, stop, check both sides, and see if I can go left, right, or right. So all that testing, and our drivers went down the Ford and tested for months on closed tracks to figure out
Mm,
what's that right amount of time, right? Where the drivers feel comfortable, because another thing is you have to remember inside the driver's mind, you break everything a driver is taught and what they learn when you tell a truck to go 2 seconds behind another vehicle,
mm-hmm.
right? I mean, from the outside looking in, it looks every bit of like a freaking evil Knievel stunt when you're going down the highway. you
Yeah,
it's 2 seconds is close, right?
yeah.
But that we came to that conclusion with all the testing and figure out how do we eliminate all these variables to let the driver feel safe, still feel like if they have to take control, they can, but it gives them the ability to build confidence in the technology.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting to hear, and I'm curious for you, right? As a leader here, I mean, obviously, you're doing this pilot,
Mm-hmm.
and so from the technology company's perspective, the provider, right? It's valuable to them to have someone actually testing this and getting kind of that knowledge. But I'm curious for you, from someone that's leading this company, like how do you look at something like this that it could be potentially effective, or as new technologies are, maybe doesn't necessarily get the results expected in the long term. I mean, how do you weigh, like, going about trying something like that and
Mm-hmm.
putting the resources towards helping to develop?
Oh, it's a good question, and it's a hard decision to commit to
Mhm.
innovation, right?
Yeah.
Because it takes time. Uh, the return is it's lackluster at best, right?
Hmm.
There's and it's the variable continue. It seems to change, right? At what we thought was going to be one of the pickups or the positive gains from like an efficiency standpoint of two trucks driving together from like gas utilization and just right
Mm.
came to be like one of the least top positive things, right? So like you you commit to innovation and it's hard because everyone talks about it and everyone wants to be innovative, right? But it's once you get in there, you find out it's time consuming. You need resources, and
Yeah.
to do it well, you got to have good use cases, right?
Mm.
Ease has always been committed to how do we innovate X, right? So we take it. We're very proud to be, you know, helping pioneer this technology, and we feel like being able to be on the front lines of getting this technology, getting community exposure to it, working with legislation and police about how can these trucks run safely and everybody be on the same page. It challenges us, but it makes us smarter and it makes us see if this technology is mass produced, right? We already know the pros, where it's good, where it's
Hmm.
not, type of deal, right? And again, for a company our size to be able to help push this technology, it's one of those questions. If we don't, who's going to, type of deal,
Hmm.
right? And so we're very excited to do it, but we also understand when we get into this world of innovation that our expectations of what the outcome is are are we've gotten good at making sure that they're, I don't want to say low, but we're
Mm.
realistic with what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Uh, we knew we knew that kicking this off, we weren't going to have 100 customers calling us and say, "Hey, can we put all our cargo on these trucks or beta testing with new technology?" Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it was the exact opposite. Right? We
Mm.
would talk to customers like, "That is so cool. Do not put my shit in there." You know what I mean? Like, you know, like awesome, good for you. I don't want to,
Yeah.
call it, So those were one of the things where you're like, okay, but we're showing a commitment to innovation, and
Mm.
through that, we're expanding, our minds, we're expanding our experiences and our intelligence inside our walls. That also makes us stronger.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And I love the honesty there, and kind of how you're how you're looking at it, and understanding like what the potentials are, whether they're positive
Yeah.
or just no result at the end of the day, right? But trying something, and I think going out there and trying to figure out something that could have this positive result. And I think you said a really interesting thing there where you said, if we don't do it, like, who else is going to do it, right? And maybe it's a competitor, and then it's successful for the competitor, and then you're kind of like, like we should have did that, right? So very interesting there. So now tell us too about, you're in Columbus, Ohio area, as you mentioned. So tell us a little bit about kind of the location there, and how does that kind of tie into the testing in different scenarios and climates too as well, because autonomous
Yeah.
trucking type of things have kind of been in some warmer climates, I think we've
Yeah.
seen, but Columbus is not always like warm all year round,
Yeah.
right?
No, we actually, I think we had 3 seasons today. Um,
Yeah.
so when we first started, it was focused on rural,
Mm,
right? That was an aggressive area to start, right? Two semis going down the road, and as the technology evolved and partners came on, like Kratos that had some beefed up technology, we really opened it up, and ODOT has always been involved, and then Indiana got involved, so it opened up for us to now go outside state lines. So we
mm,
focus on the I-70 corridor, right?
yeah.
If you've ever driven down the I-70 corridor, um, with respect to the hardworking individuals at ODOT and IDOT, you come across every type of road, construction, pothole, this, left, right,
Yeah.
and you're subject to heavy wind, heavy rain, snow sometime, ice sometime. You're subject to
Mm,
all these. So you get a lot of good use cases, and it's also a high volume hub, right? Or a high volume route that connects two hubs, Columbus, Indiana. So there's a tremendous amount of use cases when you're also talking about how did we apply it to revenue generating routes, because it really
mm,
opened up our ability to now find use cases without really trying to stretch it and say, yeah, that would make sense to put it there.
mm,
So uh, and the data that we got from being able to go further distances and cross state lines, right? And also what we learned, when you get these trucks and you get new technology, um, you get this giant binder of stuff you can't do, you
yeah.
know? And then you're seamlessly supposed to test and check boxes off that okay, it worked in that environment, right, for
Mm,
X amount of time, uh, early morning rain on rained at X time, stopped raining, heavy downpour, certain temperatures. So you check these boxes of we were driving in perfect conditions and it started doing this, and right as it started, the technology didn't default. So right,
mm,
yes, we deactivated it, but we got some use case showing that the technology was able to operate in that. So
mm,
that that environment, although it's potentially to that people that live outside the Midwest, it's like the most Midwest area between Ohio and Indiana possible. It actually gives you a lot of exposure to weather conditions, road types,
yeah.
different types of vehicles, high volume, rural areas. So the data we've been able to collect and the boxes we've been able to check, it's been I would say tremendous success on getting the technology closer to the next phase.
Mm. Very interesting. Yeah. And I think that that dynamic kind of versatile environment, right, certainly allows for I imagine a vast amount of data to be collected in different situations, and even like you mentioned, like the changing situations, like it's clear out now, it's raining, or now it's very windy, right? And like, what does the system do? How does it react? Does that impact at all, or not impact? And I think that's really good to be able to see that in that kind of environment. So very interesting there.
Mhm.
And so if we look towards kind of the future, like how do you see this pilot program and this technology evolving over time?
Yeah, I think we will see an evolution and continue to see smart trucks and trailers evolving.
Mm,
Uh, you know, one of the trailers is a quote unquote smart trailer that has a bunch of sensors on it that's collecting road data. Right.
okay.
This road data can capture everything from temperature of the road to uh, precipitation to also like vibrations of how big. potholes and things were, right? I think the technology starts to push towards commercial trucks being a positive, always positive, whichever positive, uh, participant in collecting community data, right, and sharing that, right. Example: felt the big pothole, automatically connecting to the ODOT or IDOT and letting them know that pothole need, so using the trucks from commercial, using the data from commercial trucks to improve roads and quickly see where there's issues on the road. I think that's one thing that is not being talked enough. But as these trucks and trailers get smarter and these smart highways and smart roads start to evolve, I think that's one thing that we're going to really gain a lot of value from, right? And then this, obviously the second one is promoting safety of the truck drivers and the vehicles around them on the road, right? The single, unfortunately, anytime a semi is in any kind of accident, there's a perception that the semi must have been at fault, right?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because they're the safest drivers, or they should be the safest drivers on the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
So elevating the drivers to even be more safe, but also teaching the community about these technologies. We can't do this. This economy can't grow. The world. We can't do what we need to do in our daily lives if we don't have trucks on the road, right?
Right.
So making them safer, getting community buy-in. It's all very important, and I see that technology being able to help communities and the community buy into understanding the importance of trucks, right? Trucks are safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I see that evolution, right? It's kind of like what you kind of see in almost like it starts with data sharing, and then it starts then the autonomous factors promoting safety really start to get layered in.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I love that you have that kind of safety focus and safety mindset about it kind of underlying there. And I think it would be really interesting to see how this technology continues to evolve and how it's being utilized in the marketplace. And, so very interesting to talk to you today, Peter, and learn about, just ease in general and how you kind of came to start the company, and also learn about this autonomous pilot that you guys are running, and kind of how it's going, and that innovative mindset that you have, and how you kind of go about that strategically and think about it in a practical way. So really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to me today here. If people are interested in learning more about Ease Logistics, and maybe they're interested in putting their stuff on those trucks,
Please.
what's the best way to get in touch?
Our website is very, very easy to navigate. Easelogistics.com. Right, you go there. We have a tremendous amount of information on technologies that we're using in the trucks, in our warehouses, and in our logistics operations. Um, we operate 24/7. Info at Ease Logistics. You ever need to get a hold of me, it still comes right to my phone. So
Mm.
please reach out if interested. And we love teaching and sharing information about it to make the community more informed. And I encourage everybody that wants to learn more or is interested in it to just take that first step and start reading about it and learning. And we'd love to be the platform that helps that happen.
All right, fantastic. And love to hear that. And we'll definitely share all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well as in the show notes. So, Peter, thank you once again for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesAreSexy.com and get your own.